Hello, 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 hello. Monday, July 29th, 2024 at 2:36 p.m. Eastern Time. Chat on Jeremy Brown, Special Forces, FBI, whistleblower, January 6th, all that stuff, calling in from prison. He's a cool dude. Guys, as always, please go to Frank's Speech. Frank's Speech is the video platform owned by Mike Lindell, the My Pillow guy. They're the biggest single sponsor of this show. They keep it free, they keep it available, they keep it going. The show does not run on thoughts and prayers. It does, but it also runs on money, on US dollars, on cold hard cash. They keep the show going at the very least. Could you guys please go, just make an account, go subscribe to something there. Maybe my show, maybe not, but do whatever you want. But go make an account for Frank's Speech. My Pillow, obviously, My Pillow, the OG, Mike Lindell, My Pillow, Pill Master. I got the sheets, the blankets, the pillow cases, the pillows, the slippers, the bathrobe, the hand towels, wash towels, bath towels. I got everything from them. They're legitimately awesome. I use it every night. Again, it's the middle of the summer here, so I'm not really using a whole lot of blankets and stuff during the show. But as it gets colder, which is the majority of the year up here in New England, you'll see me start to again. You ever during the game stream, you ever see me with a blanket? It's legit. It's 100% always my pillow. Please go there. Promo code TPC. Um, Also, Gold Genesis Group works with Frank's Speech. They have these little prepper bars which of silver, like little perforated things you can break 7.5, 3.5, 1.5 grams. Or you can go get gold IRA. You can get platinum, palladium, all the precious metals. Um, Use the link in the description that supports the podcast. The links are always TPC or Tommy, and it's always 10% off or free ship. It's one of those four. It's a combination of those four. So I always just kind of blanket say that. Um, Heaven's Harvest. Heaven's Harvest is a prepper company, 25-year shelf life, freeze dried food right here under my desk. Oh, don't pull a muscle. Too old now. You can get freeze dried, I don't know, banana chips, raspberries, strawberries, apples, oatmeal, or you can get this big old bucket of freeze dried food, mac and cheese, pasta Alfredo, cheesy potato, multigrain, orange drink, and a whole bunch of other stuff. 25-year shelf life. They support the podcast. Clayton's a cool dude from Georgia. He's been on the show, God-fearing, American-loving countryman. He's there to help you get through nuclear winter or not, or just have some food, peace of mind, makes you look good in front of the wife. Look at me, I'm preparing for things. I don't really know which way's up, but I'm not gonna show that to you because I'm a man. Um, what else? I was gonna say the wellness company, but I got an email from them that said I wasn't selling enough, so they're not using me anymore. So don't go to the wellness company. Don't go get vitamins and supplements from there. Go anywhere else. Give anyone else money because that's how much money I get from them, which precisely is $0. I don't know why. It doesn't cost anything to be an affiliate member, but whatever. They emailed me, and so whatever. Up to them. Anybody else sell supplements? I'm open now. Um. Also, I've been using this topical gel for I've got forearm and bicep pain. All of this year, I've been lifting weights for all of my life, for about 20 years. I've never had pain in my arms this long. Normally, ever for like a week here, a week there. Had it for about 7 months now. So I'm using that gel, putting it on the skin. It's supposed to help muscle relief. I've been doing it for about a week. Probably keep doing it. And if it doesn't work, I'm just gonna tell you guys it doesn't work. I'm not gonna give you snake oil. Um, just because one, it's just not the right thing to do, but it's also like why would I help out? I'm not saying that's what it is, man. I'm not a good advertiser. But I'm just pretty honest with you guys. Like I told you early on with my pillow, I was like, yeah, it's just a pillow. But then I started using the thermal pillow, and those don't get cold, or those don't get hot, and I was like, all right, this is a dope pillow. So for better or worse, I don't know how to be dishonest. My life would probably be a lot easier. The podcast would probably be making a lot more money. I have an ingrown hair in my nose. Ow. Probably making a lot more money, have a lot more subscribers if I was dishonest, but for whatever reason, I'm incapable of doing that to you guys. I wish I could. Probably be a lot easier to be a psychopath and rise to the top of the political power structure and use the apparatus of the state to crush my enemies, but I'm not. So, instead we're gonna shill some muscle creams. I think that's it, right? There's no more of the wellness company, so you got to remove that from my description. Blue light therapy. Oh yeah, blue light. So I went and used it. I went and used it this past weekend. It's a therapy room. They use it for PTSD, but it's also for meditative states. It makes me think of in 2017 and 2018. This is my honest review. I had I was actually prescribed through my doctor this giant, I think it's called daylight. It's this giant square of a light. I still have it somewhere, and it's like super bright. Like it's like morning sunshine bright. And you're only supposed to use it for like 15 minutes because after that can cause agitation. But it simulates like the exact wavelength of like the rising sun, and it's so much stronger than like a normal light. It's legit. It feels like the sun. You put it in a room, it's blinding, and that would legitimately have an effect on your mood. Now, granted, I was suffering horrible depression, but that did help. So that's how I would describe the blue room. The blue room is like it's like this room with all these blue lights. You lay on this bed for like 10-20 minutes, and the blue lights only come on for a couple minutes. That's how I would describe it in terms of like meditation. It just kind of, if you ever use something like the daylight, it's just synthetic sunlight. The blue room, obviously not sunlight because it's blue, but that's what it feels like. I'm not going to sit here and tell you guys that it was like instant nirvana, but there is something there in terms of someone that meditates every day. There is something there. Um, I don't know how usable that is to you. But I think maybe you have to be near one of the, I guess, therapy centers, but I'll go give it a try. I got to go do it for free, but I think it's only like $20. But I would look that up. It's in the description. And they're also a giant sponsor of the show. The owner loves my show, so shout out to her. And also batteries. My buddy Cells has a battery company, Prismatic. Get 10% off if you use the link in the description. And some of those go for 60 grand. So 6 grand off ain't nothing to sneeze at. Or as always, you can go to the Patreon, you can go to PayPal, buy me a coffee, Cash App, locals, or you can super chat during the game streams or whenever. So that's everything. Love you guys. Thank you so much for watching. Peace.
The patented Blue Room technology creates an environment to provide the user with a mental reset, a consciousness lifting environment that can augment one's state of creative focus. Sessions consist of 20 minutes of deep relaxation inside a futuristic octagon bathed in blue and ultraviolet B light. The Blue Room geometry is based upon Tesla's 3, 6, and 9. The number 9 models everything and no thing simultaneously, and it can be experienced in the center of the Blue Room octagon. The Blue Room brings your mind to stasis. When you experience tranquility and peace, your mind has a well-being that is transmitted to your body. It is a non-invasive, non-surgical relaxation therapy. Benefits include pain relief, relief from stress and anxiety, improved health, and greater self-awareness. For more information, visit blueroom.com.
The caller has hung up.
Okay, I'll connect him as soon as he calls back. And can you hear me, Tommy?
Yes, ma'am. And just so you know, we are now streaming, just full disclosure, so you know.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
but yeah, so have him call back. And for everybody tuning in, he's been on here once before, Mr. Jeremy Brown, January 6th whistleblower. He came on about a year ago, I want to say. And yeah, so he's calling in. He can only do 15 minutes at a time, so it comes obviously in waves. And so that's what we're doing right now. And let me see. So I'm waiting for him to call back. Yeah, so he came on for everybody listening. Just filling the air right now. He came on about a year ago. Former Special Forces.
All right, Jim, can you hear me?
Is he back?
I have him back, yes.
Okay. Well, Mr. Jeremy Brown, we are live right now. I was just telling everyone you came on about a year ago, so it's 1537 now. I think you came on like 1370 something. And obviously called in several times. And we kind of spoke about all things and kind of no sacred cows last time. And, even I believe last time we spoke about, was Trump in on January 6th. And I really enjoyed it because it wasn't just, one side or the other. It was just kind of, an all-out brainstorm. So, but for future listeners, today's Monday, July 29th, 2024. And so it's been a little over 2 weeks since the assassination attempt on Trump. So I figure that's kind of like we have to talk about that. So, but real quick, Mr. Brown, could you please introduce yourself to everyone that maybe doesn't know you, and then we can dive into it.
Yeah, so my name is Jeremy Brown. I'm a retired U.S. Army Special Forces Master Sergeant. I spent 20 years in the U.S. Army Special Operations community, 3 years with the 75th Ranger Regiment, and then 17 years as a Green Beret. I retired in 2012 as the non-commissioned officer in charge of the Special Activities Branch of Special Operations Command Central. From there, I worked as a instructor and subject matter expert at the Joint Special Operations University, teaching the future senior NCOs of the Special Operations community. I held a top secret clearance, and then after I retired, I started a limousine company. In 2020, I ran for U.S. Congress. And then in 2021, I was arrested because in December of 2020, the FBI's Joint Terrorism Task Force attempted to recruit me to infiltrate the Oath Keepers, of which I recorded that entire meeting. And then after the events of January 6th, and seeing that it was clearly a stage setup, of which I had warned the Oath Keepers about in November of 2020, which is actually probably the reason why the FBI attempted to recruit me 2 weeks later. I knew that the initial contact with me was tied to that. And so in March of 2021, I went public with that 20 to 25-minute recording of me basically, getting these two Department of Homeland Security investigators who were working on behalf of the Joint Terrorism Task Force to say all kinds of stupid and illegal things that the government is involved in. And then for the next 7 months, I continued to blow that whistle until it got so loud that the FBI basically came and arrested me on, charges related to things that were clearly planted. And all the evidence supports that, and it's a claim that I made from the day they arrested me. And I was sentenced to almost 3 times the national average for national security crimes by a judge, even though she admitted that I basically was the type of convict she's never seen before. Somebody with no criminal background, a 20-year military career, and 3 sitting members of office, 2 U.S. congressmen, and then 1 Florida state legislator. Despite all that, she still sentenced me to 3 times the national average for the charges of which I faced. And so, the bottom line is that I reported the FBI involved in what we should all now know is a 100% complete false narrative to cover up a military and intelligence coup against the American people, not against Donald Trump. This is the confusion. Everyone thinks that everything going on in America is against Donald Trump. It is not. It is against you, the American people. And so, I've been trying to tell my story because information dominance is a powerful thing.
It is, and it's an absolutely maddening story, but I do appreciate that that you kind of attack it with truth, and it's not Donald Trump, it's about you. He's a figurehead, he's a name, but he's not the end all be all. And I think with something as momentous as not January 6th but now January 13th with the attempt on his life, it's do still have to look at that very critically. And I don't know anything. Obviously, I don't know anything about it. I'm not a ballistics expert. I've had on several ballistics experts and talked about it. But from your, I guess, experience mind, what were your reflexive kind of gut feelings about July 13th as soon as it happened?
Well, now you can count me as one of those additional experts. Yeah, I graduated a Special Operations Target Interdiction, which is a Special Forces Sniper School in 1998. I've trained multiple foreign counter sniper and sniper teams around the world as part of my duties as a Green Beret over my 20-year career. So, look, I'm in a jail cell. I don't have access to a lot of the reports to be able to go back through video over and over again. But immediately, the first thing you should always do is immediately assume that the government is lying. That's the first thing, right? Because the first victim of any type of warfare is always the truth, right? And so immediately, whatever the narrative is, you should just assume that's going to be false. And if you look at history, no assassination or assassination attempt throughout the history of humanity, the initial story has ever panned out to actually be accurate, right? I mean, whether it's Reagan, whether it's JFK, RFK, whatever, right? I mean, even if it's Prince Ferdinand or King Ferdinand, whatever his rank was at the time, right? None of the initial stories ever pan out. What I can tell you is that ballistically, the first thing that I heard on Fox News Radio here in jail was the actual audio of the shooting, right? And so we've been told that the shooter took his shots from approximately 130 yards, right? Well,
Correct.
In external ballistics, you have something known as crack to bang, okay? A bullet makes a sonic crack because it is traveling at far beyond the speed of sound as it passes through the air. But then the weapon itself makes a report, right? So the crack is the bullet and the bang is the gun. And when I heard the initial 3 shots, that they claimed that there were 8, but this clip that I was listening to on the radio, I only heard 3 or 4 of them. But there is a clear and distinct audible difference of about a quarter to a half second between the crack, which is the bullet traveling through the air, and the report of the firearm, right? And so at 130 yards, that crack to bang would not be so distinct. So think about you standing far, far away from a sniper and he shoots at you. You will hear the bullet first, and then you will hear the distant sound of his rifle because that sound is traveling at the speed of sound, whereas the bullet was much faster. So that was the first thing. I basically knew right away that there had to have been other shots from somewhere other than 130 yards because, 130 yards is basically the length of a football field. And if somebody's shooting at you from the other end of a football field, you're not going to have a quarter to half second distance between the sound of the round and the actual report of the weapon. So, and then of course we get the reports after a video of the guy clearly being able to move into place. Look, a counter sniper team, they don't just get up there on the roof with no planning and with a set of binoculars, right, and start looking at it. They have a systematic plan, a systematic scanning, right? They have interlocking sectors of fire. They have range cards, right? So the counter sniper teams have that rooftop on their range card. They know the range to it. They know the height of the building. They know everything about all of these potential firing positions, right? And yet somehow this kid climbs up in clear view of everybody. The people are warning law enforcement who have radios, right? And yet somehow the counter snipers allow this guy to get 8 shots off. It's absurd. So initially I told, Jen Hicks, who's facilitating this call, I said, one, the first thing you're going to hear is that it's an AR style rifle, right? Because this is the narrative. We must destroy the AR rifle because tyranny cannot gain control over the American people if we have so many AR style rifles, because that means we can fight back, right? And I said, the second thing is, and this was the day that Christopher Wray came out and initially reported that he was a lone wolf and there were no suspected ties to any other groups, right? That day, I sent an email saying, okay, you can expect that in the next few days, you're going to hear about either the Iranians, Mossad, the Russians, the Chinese, Hamas, or whatever. Somebody is going to be accused of plotting against the president, and then we will use the tried and true explanation and cover up for any inside job, and that is, it was a failure of intelligence. And lo and behold, after Christopher Wray came out and said, oh, this guy looks like a lone wolf, then days later, they come out and say, actually, we were tracking an Iranian plot to kill the president. But I guess we just didn't let the Secret Service know that. So these are just some. Look, we could go on for hours and hours. I'll spend $200 in phone calls to go over all of the things that just should not have happened from a ballistic standpoint, from a protective detail standpoint. But what we do know, once again, like I said, is that the narrative never survives first contact with the American people, because we live in a day and age where, yes, they have information dominance, but we also have our own cameras, right? I mean, so it's really absurd. And now we've got the second part of any good cover-up, and that is the fake congressional hearings, right? Well, they're going to get to the bottom of it, right? So, yeah, we've got that to look forward to.
No, keep going. I got nothing doing. Keep tearing it apart. It's still the primary news story.
Look,
It's yeah.
Yeah, and Tommy, here's the bottom line. They want World War III, okay? This is what they're spoiling for. They want to use World War III, just like they used World War I and World War II, to bring about a furtherance of their end goal, right? And their end goal, their end game is a global government, okay? They want to destroy national sovereignty, of which they've been successful in most places all over the world. But like I said, the AR-style rifle and the armed American citizen, which is the largest defense force on the planet, right? Think about that. The armed American citizen is larger than the Russian and Chinese military combined, okay? The armed American veteran is the largest fighting force on the planet, okay? And so as long as we have the ability to resist, then we're a threat. The American people are a threat, right? So what do they want? What do they have to do? They have to distract us with some type of war, right? So what do we have now? We have the expansion of the war in the Middle East, right? Israel is now openly bombing inside of Lebanon after they reached out to Yemen, after they reached into Iran. And no matter what you believe, the bottom line is they love war, okay? And you can support Israel, you cannot support Israel. Frankly, I don't care, right? But I'm an American, I'm not an Israeli, right? And so I believe that our resources and efforts should be going to protect America. And we clearly have an invasion happening on the southern border, not according to me, but according to the people responsible for the southern border, right? ICE and the Border Patrol that have reported hundreds of thousands of military-age males from China, from all types of countries, Iran, Syria, you name it. They are coming across the southern border, right? This is preparation of the battlefield, right? This is the moving in place of subversive saboteurs and, clandestine operatives, right? You have the buying up of land, not just, good deals. Hey, I found this piece of farmland in the middle of nowhere on sale, and as a Chinese investor, I thought it was great. No.
You have 1 minute left.
China buying up and being allowed to buy up land, but not just regular land literally next to our military bases. I mean, why would they want to do that? I don't know. Maybe if I was actually an unconventional warfare expert, I spent 20 years doing this, I might want to actually position all my weapons and supplies right next to the very places that I'm actually going to attack. And then we have the flying of spy balloons. So there's other issues at play here other than politics. But they want us to focus on the politics because they want us distracted, deceived, and divided at all times. So Tommy, let me call you back, and there's some other points I want to make that people probably didn't pay attention to as they were waving their palms for their favorite politician.
Yes, sir. All right, he'll be calling right back.
The caller has hung up.
Yeah, I love these shows. This is fantastic. Yeah, so again, for everyone wondering, why I keep doing these episodes, same reason why during COVID I had on all the doctors, because I'm not a doctor, but I had doctors on to speak with authority. I'm not a sniper. I'm not a ballistics expert, so I feel that I need to do all these shows and catalog it, right? Because as time goes on, it's easier for the plot to be lost. It's easier to, imagine trying to like uncover 9/11 now, like 25 years later, right? It's important to do it temporally within range of the event. So, I can't possibly know what they are, but there's obviously things.
Conversation now.
now that, you know,
All right, I'm back.
all right, he's
Can you hear
back.
me?
All right, yep, keep going.
Yeah, so here's a couple other things that you might not have noticed because they like to do their favorite thing. And I recognize this because I'm in jail. So the only access to information I have is a single Fox News affiliate. And at the top of the hour, they play the all the news that you're supposed to know, nothing more than that, right?
Correct.
And so one of their favorite techniques is to play the same story over and over every hour, right? And it's usually something about Trump or something about Biden or something about Trump and Biden or something about maybe Kamala Harris. I don't know, right? But yet, what they'll do occasionally is they'll run a story that they don't want you to know, but they also don't want you to say that they didn't cover it, right? And so in the last two major public speaking events by our former, or our dementia patient in chief, right? One was the address of why he quit, which we all know it doesn't matter if he quit because he was never in charge of anything.
Mm-hmm.
That evening, Fox News reported that the first time ever a joint Chinese-Russian bomber flight was intercepted off the coast of Alaska.
Yep.
Now, first time ever. Right now, we know about Russians probing not just NASA, right? Because they're right across the border from us, right? And so this is the first time ever it was Chinese and Russian bombers. Okay, so there's that. So now everyone is watching Joe Biden to see how many words he screws up and whether or not he's going to die on camera, right? Meanwhile, our enemies are actually committing military maneuvers and probing operations on our western flank, okay? Now, the previous time was the post-debate press conference. Again, another political theater event where, again, we all tune in to watch our dementia patient-in-chief try to actually complete a full thought unsuccessfully. That night, guess what? Fox reports one time. Again, both of these reports I heard only one time because they're not very significant, right? One time I hear that for the second time in the history of the planet, okay, the second time in the history of the planet, 4 Chinese naval vessels were intercepted near U.S. waters. They were still in international waters, right? Because see, this is how probing operations go. You don't want to do enough to get shot at, but you want to do enough to test the defenses, right?
Yeah.
These 4 naval vessels, for the second time in human history, for the second time in naval history, were intercepted by not the United States Navy, no, but the United States Coast Guard. Okay. Now, I say the second time because the first time this ever happened was just a couple of years ago. I think 2, 3, maybe 4 years ago. The first time ever, the actual same thing happened. 4 blue water Chinese naval vessels made it to the coast of the United States. Now, if you don't know much about world history, you know, the Spanish and the British and everything had all these great blue water navies throughout the history of the world, right? And that's how they were able to colonize the world, right? Would it be South America, North America, or whatever? But China has never had that capability, which is why you don't have a bunch of other countries that are also Chinese, right? Because they didn't have force projection, is what we would call it in the military. And so these 3 military events have just all recently happened during the Biden administration. Now, why is this significant? Because we know that the Chinese have directly paid this administration. So if this administration is riddled with Chinese assets, would it be beyond the realm of possibility to think that the Chinese might ops test those assets? And what's an ops test? An ops test is when I have an asset and I just trained him, I recruited him, I trained him, and I'm ready to operationalize him, but I don't quite know how effective he is. Is his asset and access and placement what I think it is? I will give him a task for her, and then I will surveil that task. Now, he's not going to know that I'm surveilling it, and basically I'm checking his work. So these probing operations, where was the United States Navy? Both times, the U.S. Coast Guard, not the United States Navy, is who intercepted the Chinese. Well, could this be because the administration maybe directed the naval fleet to other areas on training exercises or humanitarian or whatever? Did they have them at port getting resupplies of ding-dongs and wing-dings? I don't know. What I do know is that our adversary's Navy should not be able to get right off the coast of our country without our Navy knowing about it and intercepting them. Instead, relying on the United States Coast Guard. And why would it be the Coast Guard? Because see, the Coast Guard has a less micromanaged mission, right? The Coast Guard does not have to call the White House to say, hey, we're going to go check on this fishing boat's distress call, right? And that means that there's Coast Guard vessels all over the place all the time. They're like police cars, right? So even the best criminal can have the best plan, but he's no defense against the cop that's stopping at his favorite donut shop across from the target of this massive criminal plan, right? And so here you have the Coast Guard just out there doing what they do, saving lives and rescuing fishing boats and swimmers and things like that. And they come across, oopsie, 4 Chinese naval vessels. See, this is a problem. And then you've got joint communist naval exercises in the Caribbean for the first time in years, massive exercises involving the Russians, the Cubans, the Venezuelans, and the Chinese. What could go wrong there, right? And then you have economic things like BRICS being established, the decoupling from the petrodollar. Ladies and gentlemen, this is an attack against America. And all of these aspects of this war are meant to demoralize and to destabilize the United States because, trust me, they don't want a shooting war, but they're certainly fine with it if they need one. So this is why you hear the constant saber rattling, the provocation into World War III, because if they can't subdue us without shooting us in the face, they definitely will shoot us in the face. And that is what you're seeing in America. And January 6th was no different than Hitler's February of 1933 staged burning of the Reichstag. It was the event that allowed Hitler to give himself emergency powers to then turn the weapons of his regime against the enemies of his plan. And the first were the communists and then the trade unionists. Read Martin Niemeyer's poem, right? Jews were very far down on the list, right? So this is what January 6th. So today it's the Trump MAGA conservative. Tomorrow it will be, I don't know, the abortion rights activist. But no one survives a communist revolution except for the members of the party.
And then, so looking at this then, so last time we talked about, Trump and how don't assume anything. And it's not even necessarily a belief of mine so much as I just always appreciate keeping my mind limber and open to everything. And so last time we talked about, is Trump the hero, or was he involved with January 6th? I mean, how, if we're postulating that this is the most, well-funded, well-organized, entrenched power structure in the history of man, be it the military-industrial complex with the biosurveillance state and the intelligence community and the corporate state, it's not that odd to assume, or at least to throw out the idea that, Trump is a nefarious actor. It's, I don't like that idea. I voted for Trump, but it's something that I try to just never put anything as untouchable. Like, oh, we can't question that. So it has to come up then. Sorry, go on.
And no, I'm sorry. There's a delay here,
Yeah,
so I apologize.
you're good.
But
You're good.
you're absolutely right. And that is the way a warrior looks at the battlefield, right? I mean, in special forces, we work with the bad guys to get to the worst guys, okay? We never assume that our best asset that is reported perfectly for 5 years, we never assume that he's the good guy.
Of course
we
not.
know that he's a bad guy. We are constantly, we know he's a liar, we know he's a deceiver because we've trained him to lie and deceive, right? And he could very easily lie and deceive against us, right? And so you never, ever, ever say, oh, he would never do that, right? You always view the world through if-then. If he's bad, then he would do this. And if he's good, then he would do this. And if he's just a moron, he would do this. If he's super intelligent, playing 5D chess, he would do that, right? It is a constant evaluation, right, of what is going on around you. And when I try to get people to say, who constantly tell me, oh, and trust me, Tommy, no one hears it more than me, okay? Everyone, oh, when Trump gets in there, he's going to do this. When Trump gets in there, he's going to do that. Let me tell you this. Trump's already been the president once, and he just got shot, allegedly, okay? Now, Tommy, if for 8 years people tried to destroy your life at every turn, they ruined everything that you tried to do, they attacked you, they raided your home, they harassed your children, all of these things, and then tomorrow they shoot at you, what's your reaction going to be? Is it going to be just act normal, like, hey, well, see, look, they really don't like me. Just elect me, and I'm going to solve it. No, the behavior is not consistent with somebody who's truly being attacked. So I don't know. Look, I'm just saying, consider this. Christopher Wray was hired by Trump, not by Biden, not by Clinton or Obama or whatever, right? There is a possibility that Trump's not going to do anything, just like he didn't do anything. Now, of course, don't get me wrong. People always say, well, what about the economy, this and that? All right. If you do 10 good things for me, Tommy, I mean, you bring me a nice cold Blue Moon or Shock Top, you get me Little Caesar's pizza that I love, you bring over my favorite movie, Captain Fantastic, you mow my yard, you do whatever, right? You get my mail, you bring it to the house, right? But the 11th thing that you do to me is put poison in my morning coffee, then you're not a good guy.
No.
Okay? And this is what people should actually look at when they look at this compromised federal government. Now, this is just a theory. I've also got the if Trump is the hero, right? See, if Trump is the hero, then very bad things are coming very soon. Because let me tell you this, China, Russia, Iran, North Korea, Cuba, Venezuela, they're not fans of the United States, okay? And if they actually have a plan to actually attack the mainland of the United States, do you think they want to do it when they have a paid asset in charge of the military, or the guy that they hate in charge of the military? So if Trump is good, that like everybody, if Trump is the savior that everyone says that he will be, which I don't believe any politician is the savior, first of all, but that's okay. Maybe he is a great guy. The presidency doesn't actually run a damn thing, but what he can do is use the bully pulpit to mobilize the American people against this administrative and bureaucratic state. But if he's good, are they going to allow him to gain power against them? I would say no, right? I mean, if the military planner looks at best case, worst case, most dangerous case scenarios. And I would think that in this global power structure, if Trump is the hated individual that we're all told that he is, why would they allow him to gain power? Why would they only attempt to shoot him once with a 20-year-old with iron sights? Why wouldn't they actually be successful? If they wanted him in jail, why isn't he in jail? He has 31 counts of the very single count charge that they held me without bond for. They could do the same thing to him. And so you have to constantly evaluate the situation and allow for the fact that what you're being told, hey, guess what? Your wife actually is cheating on you. No, she would never do that. She loves me. She made me lasagna last night. Yeah, well, here's the security camera footage, right? I mean, if you don't look at things from this perspective, you're going to be a useful idiot, And you're going to look around one day and wonder what the hell happened as you're sitting in some concentration
Thank you for
camp
using
somewhere.
Securus. Goodbye.
That's the 15-minute limit. He'll be calling right back. Yeah, that's something that I think a lot of people don't like entertaining because it's such a black pill to be like, oh wait, what if he's on the other side? But it doesn't matter whether or not it's a black pill. It doesn't if you're out to find the truth, and if you're out to defend yourself, and if you're out to, continue your way of life and protect those who you love, then you have nothing can be holy. I mean, what percentage of child molesters are family members? What percentage are aunts and uncles? Like, it doesn't mean that you have to, live a negative, pessimistic life. It doesn't mean that at all. But it does mean
And
that
now.
you can't put your head in the sand.
All right, Jen.
Yeah, you're back.
Jen, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah, no, it's like that. So, let's play devil's advocate. Why? First thing is, yeah. So you would imagine that the very first thing he would do, right? If you truly almost got JFK'd, I feel like the first thing you would do is, I mean, and this is me, biology degree, no military experience, 33-year-old idiot. First thing I would do is, I would not poke my head up until I had like a mercenary force of people I trusted. Even through my own podcast, first thing I would do is I would contact all the Delta Force guys, and I'd be like, I need like a wall of killers around me. And the second thing you would do is you would come out and in no uncertain terms, like you would get back on Twitter to his 80 million followers and live stream and be like, they just tried to kill me. What you need to understand is that we are on the precipice of total disaster. Now, counterpoint to that, I don't know, maybe one day when I'm in my 70s or 80s, God willing, there might be something to be said for putting on a strong face and keeping calm, cool, and relaxed, right? You don't want your dad coming home, if he gets laid off and just freaking out, dad puts on a strong face and, oh, we're going to get through it. You don't want to scare kids. I don't mean to infantilize the U.S. populace, but there is something to be said for, courage under fire, calm, cool, and collected. You come out, you smile, you go, yeah, they shot at me, but hey, whatever. There's something to be said for that, right? I mean, let's assume the government didn't do 9/11, right? Let's just say they didn't. There is something badass about like George Bush going and standing on the rubble, right? You want that total projection of force. So that would be my counterpoint to he's not acting that way, is you just, because there's something to be said for, in an internet meme culture, there's something kind of hardcore about going golfing the next day, right? But I'm with you. My spidey senses do go up because I'm like, just based on Donald Trump, the Trump we know, would he not come out, covered in blood and live stream and be like, these motherfuckers want war? Like, that's something Trump would do. It's odd that he didn't. So what are your thoughts on that? Or anything. You can talk about whatever.
Well, I mean, think of his reaction post January 6th. Perfect example, right? He held a rally for him. It's his rally to support his effort, right? He gets on the stage and he looks out over millions of people who showed up at his command, right? Come to D.C. It's going to be wild, right? He put out the call, which is what we would expect a strong leader to do. And it was very, very persuasive, right? The largest political rally ever to besiege our nation's capital, right? They're going to lie about the numbers because they don't want the American people to know how many of us there are, right? They want to actually isolate us and make us believe that we are the extreme radicals when really we're the overwhelming majority. But he put the call out. People showed up. They did exactly what he asked them to do. Then they're all targeted for destruction, to include him, right? I mean, how many times have we heard? In fact, the entire January 6th committee was all about blaming everything on Trump. They publicly lambast him and drag him over the coals what type of public defense did he put on of his actions? I mean, how many rallies post January 20th, after Biden took office, how many rallies did Donald Trump have defending himself, defending January 6th, defending his supporters that showed up at his behest? How many millions of dollars has Donald Trump donated to January 6th defendants' cases? Now, has he hosted fundraisers at Mar-a-Lago? Sure. But I've never seen any money from these multi-million dollar fundraisers. I have directly reached out to people within Trump world and been ignored numerous times. In fact, one of these events at Mar-a-Lago, I was told that the people involved directly said, we don't want Jeremy Brown's people there because that's too much drama. Yeah, unconventional warfare is a lot of drama. I mean, everything is drama. Everything is fake. Everything is lies. That's why military information support operations are part of every phase of an unconventional warfare campaign plan, right? So my question is, you've been attacked for so long. They are literally, he had no problem defending himself against the perfect Ukrainian call, right? He had no problem defending himself against the Russia hoax thing, right? He was constantly talking about that. And yet, he's relatively silent on the most severe charge against him, which is that he ran a coup, oddly, as the commander-in-chief of the United States military. I don't know how that works, but whatever. He ran a coup to maintain power, and yet he's relatively silent about it. And then only during the election season does he say, I'm going to pardon the J6s. Mr. President, we don't want pardons. Well, some do, right? I don't, because I'm not a criminal, okay? What I want is justice. What I want is accountability. What I want is for those that have openly attacked America, these anti-American, you can call them Marxists, you can call them communists, you can call them transgender activists. I don't care what you call them, but they are anti-American, and they have targeted the American people. They have basically defecated on the United States Constitution. But of course, the Constitution went out the window 100 years ago. But they continually taunt us with this, we're a threat to democracy. You're damn right I'm a threat to democracy, just like Benjamin Franklin was, just like George Washington was, just like Thomas Jefferson was, just like Thomas Paine, Patrick Henry, all of those domestic terrorists. I am anti-democracy because I don't like slavery. And I do not believe that the mob should rule. I believe that America was a nation of laws, not a nation of men, which democracy is a government of men. 50% plus one is what democracy is. And we were not founded as a democracy. The founders hated democracy, and yet some took a bullet for democracy. Well, no thank you. I mean, if you're going to use the enemy's language, at what point do I start to think that you might actually be part of this? Now, maybe it's not. Again, I'm not a Republican, Democrat, Libertarian, or whatever, right? I am a special interest warrior, okay?
Jeremy, you're breaking up. I don't know what just happened. The last like 20 seconds. You're breaking up. Okay, now you're back.
Okay.
Sorry. Yeah.
Right.
Rewind to 20 seconds.
All right. Look, what I was saying is that I do not have the luxury as a special forces soldier whose country is being attacked, whose government is violating not only the oath that they took, but also the oath that I took. So therefore, I do not have the luxury to simply say, Trump's going to save and fix everything, especially when I have 4 years of proof that nothing was fixed or saved, right? I mean, look at your bank account. Look at your food prices. Look at your gas prices, right? I have to look at all of the information that is coming into me, because see, I'm sitting in a jail cell because of these sons of bitches, right? And so I have to think, well, he could be good, and if he is good, then this is what we should expect to see happen, right? And there are those things, right? There are things that would indicate that Trump is good, like if they continue to escalate their attacks on him, if they start to clamor about how we shouldn't have an election in November, right? These would all be indicators that they're afraid that he might gain power, which would be the logical conclusion that he's an actual threat to them. But if we continue to see all this political drama that only makes it more certain that he will be the president of the United States, well, then the question would be, how can an all-powerful enemy, an administrative state, the deep state, if you will, how could they possibly allow this? They control everything. If they wanted to throw every conservative in jail and charge them with felonies before the November election, they could do that, right? And so you have to constantly look at the events of our time and say, what the hell is going on here? And start to compare them to other possibilities. This is what we refer to as wargaming, right? Otherwise, you're just going to wave your pom-poms right into, your jail cell or worse.
So compared to if Trump, so now to break down, I guess, the technical side. I don't know how much longer we have on this call, but the technical side of the shooting not being what we think it is. It's also something where it's not as cut and dry as, the exact opposite. It's not as something that's kind of foggy as January 6th or COVID, where you can kind of mush around the narratives and be like, well, maybe he was in on it, maybe he wasn't. He almost got his head blown off, So as a counterpoint to, us saying that maybe he was in on it, there is something to be, it's one thing if we say he was in on January 6th with the left, or he was in on COVID, or he was in on the border, or the no wall being built, whatever. This is a little more of like a high wire act to say. Now, again, I mean, were we looking at, CIA Hollywood effects? Maybe. I don't know. And I don't put anything past the capabilities of DARPA and the CIA and whatever the hell they're using. But it's also just Occam's razor would say that's way too close for comfort. Even if you're Trump, and even like the first thing I thought was like, people are saying like, oh, he was in on it, he was planned. Maybe. But I mean, if you're Trump and they come to you and they go, we're going to shoot you in the ear, my first thought would be, oh, they're killing me. They're telling me I'm going to be in on it, but they're going to blow my head off, and I'm the idiot for thinking they're going to shoot my ear. So from like a technical aspect, I look at that and I go, that's a huge flaw in my own logic. What do you think about that as a ballistics expert?
Again, so in order for Trump to be in on it, right? And again, these are all just lines of thinking. They're not what I'm saying happened.
Sure. Yeah,
right?
no, I'm with you.
Because we look at things through if-then. If Trump was in on the fake assassination attempt, well, then his wound was not real, okay? That's because you're right. At 130 yards, you're not going to hit the tip of an ear on a head that is moving back and forth with iron sights and an AR-15. That's impossible. Or, I mean, an AR-15 at best is a 2-minute of angle weapon system with a 20-year-old who just climbed up a ladder, who got into prone and assumed a firing position, right? It's just absurd, right? So that would mean that it would have to be a fake wound, which isn't beyond the realm of possibility. Look at the JFK investigation and all this other stuff. And I'm not saying that that's what happened. I'm saying this is an if-then statement. If the assassination attempt was staged by Trump or those in Trump camp, right, then the wound would have to be fake. So that's what we would have to examine. We'd have to look at, right? We'd have to analyze, right? If Trump wasn't in on it and it was a deep state attempt and basically it just failed or was meant to send a message, or maybe, any other different scenarios, well, then we definitely have tons of information that supports that, whether it's from the lack of response from law enforcement, from the Secret Service, the failure to actually cordon off against. Look, Tommy, I've attended the Army ball.
You have 1 minute left.
In Tampa, Florida, right? Because, I was in the Army for 20 years and I owned a limousine company. I donated the limousine service to the Army ball so soldiers could get home after enjoying their evening. The commanding general of CENTCOM and SOCOM were in attendance, right? Security of the hotel was locked down the morning of the event. They brought in dogs to sniff under the table and flip over all the plates for just commanding generals. Right? You honestly believe that they didn't check a rooftop for the former president of the United States? I mean, so clearly subversive and saboteur action involved on July 13th. But let me give you a call back. We're about to get cut off.
Yes, sir.
The caller has hung up.
Yeah, I don't have an answer I feel good with. Yeah. I'll wait till he comes back, but I'll use the line Don the pleb says. I think I've only done a handful of shows where I don't see the person, so I'm just doodling notes. Kind of a nice break. But yeah, the thing, what Don always says is like, we're assuming, or we're saying this the most powerful people in the world, the people that allegedly would control things like Delta Force or DevGru or Ground Branch, and then they miss. It is an admitted hole in the logic. Not Jeremy's, I mean my own. We're saying this is.
You may start the conversation now.
You back?
All right, Tommy, can you hear me?
Yeah. So it makes me think of my buddy Don. He's a former Marine, Afghanistan, I think. But it's kind of like the line from, I think, the second Batman, where the little shitty employee finds out that he thinks Bruce Wayne's Batman. He finds like the blueprints, and so he goes to the owner or the CEO of the company. It's Morgan Freeman, right? And he goes, I want $10 million a year for the rest of my life, or I go public. And I always love the line Morgan Freeman says. He's like, well, number one, he's like, you're kind of crazy because you think Bruce Wayne, the CEO of this or the owner of this company, is beating enemies to a pulp and using billions of dollars of military grade R&D. So he's like, number one, you're crazy. But number two, let's say you're right, and he is beating enemies to a pulp with his bare hands using military grade R&D. You're going to blackmail this guy? So it's like either way, there's no, the logic chain breaks. And my buddy Dom pointed it out, and he was like, the hole in our own logic is we're hypothesizing that the people behind this are the deep state, that they control the military industrial complex of every country, but especially the United States. That would include DevGru, Delta Force, Ground Branch. And we're saying that they missed.
That's right.
So it's like, the logic,
right.
It's like when bridges are being built and there's an engineering problem and they try to meet halfway and they don't connect. It's like, so they're doing this. They run Ground Branch. It's like, yes, unlimited funds, and they missed from 150 yards. That's
correct.
That
was actually going to be to build on your Occam's razor example. Okay, look, the world of psychiatry and psychology is a pseudoscience designed by the mad scientist psychopath, right? And Occam's razor is born out of this type of, thing. It's like the term conspiracy theory, right? And you're exactly right. What Morgan Freeman did in that scene was he laid out truth thing, which is you think this billionaire is beating people to a military agreement. That was actually what Batman was doing.
Well, yes.
So he laughs off the truth as a conspiracy theory and relies on Occam's razor to make people believe that the most likely scenario is really the simplest, right? When in reality, that's actually not how compartmentalized and clandestine operations work. They're intentionally designed to be complex and to utilize the excuse of the competent or intelligence failures or, that's a conspiracy theory. as their cover for their complexity, right? And so, we are told constantly that Joe Biden is the president, but you and I know that he's not. In fact, we know because Eisenhower basically told us that the presidency isn't actually in charge of shit.
Yeah.
That the military-industrial complex and the technological and scientific elite are the ones that we should be afraid of, not the president, right? And so if we knew this back in the 50s and 60s, and then we have a president in the 60s that literally said the word secrecy should be repugnant in a free society, and that the world is run by secret societies, and then he winds up dead in a plywood bed 6 feet from the rest of his life, to quote Anthrax, we should probably realize that the president of the United States is merely a political theater figurehead, and that the country has been run for a very long time, probably 150 years, by the bankers and the global elite who have a very long-term plan, right? Everyone likes to talk about how the Chinese, they plan in hundreds of years, not in 4-year election cycles, right? Well, how do you think these global elites also plan? The ones that control everything, the ones that get together in their secret meetings, right? I mean, everyone knows that the system is rigged. It's like the song, everybody knows the game is rigged, right? I mean, this is the reality for which we live. And the only thing keeping them from total control is our toleration, right? I mean, Thomas Jefferson said, when the government fears the people, there is liberty, right? Our government does not fear us as of yet. I mean, they do secretly behind closed doors, they fear us, right? Because they're like, if they find out what we're doing, if they start to believe that Occam's razor is not the explanation for everything, if they actually find out the extent of our conspiracy, well, we cannot defend against them, right? So therefore, we have to keep them distracted, we have to keep them deceived, we have to keep them divided, because if they ever find out, they're done for it, right? And that's just the reality.
Sorry to interrupt. So I then look at that, and now to entertain other ideas, I also look at it as like, is it possible that this was I guess the example I always use is like Nazi Germany, Operation Paperclip. There's a million books about it, but the long and short of the point I'm making is you had a bunch of top scientists hiding blueprints for rockets and chemical weapons on their private land in like 1942 and 1943 as a bartering chip for when eventually Germany would lose. Because what's that? There's really bad. There's a lot of noise just came through. Can you still hear me, Jeremy?
No, I'm sorry. I just had to step out in the day room.
Oh, you're good. You're good.
Because our commentary arrived. I just want to make sure. So if they call my name, we might be cut off.
Yeah.
But go ahead.
You're good. The point I was making is all these top officials had all these things that they would use for bartering chips when Germany fell, and that was 3 years before it fell. So they would do this. They would put these things away because they knew it was going to fall, and then that night they would go meet with Hitler and talk about the 1,000-year Reich. My point is they didn't broadcast that. We don't know that until 80 years later that there were cracks in the foundation years before it finally fell. It seemed like a monolith up until the last minute. So the thing is we don't know if the monolith is cracking behind the seams right now, and they're just putting on a strong face. We see everything, we hear everything, we're not scared. But this might be the first, or one of the first bits of evidence that the facade is cracking because it was such a sloppy operation. So my thoughts are was this an operation from like a faction of the power structure that, they're like, we got to go and do it now. Like Cuban Missile Crisis. LeMay was like, we got to go nuke it. And JFK was like, we're not fucking nuking it. But, that there are power factions behind the scenes. So was this something where the entire power structure didn't even write it? Like, it's kind of funny to think about they're watching the news and they see this and they're like, holy shit, like what fucking idiot just did this? Was that us? Like, you're not supposed to do this.
Right.
Like, we're gonna do X, Y, and Z. So I mean, is there, and this is more of the silver lining, I guess, is this maybe evidence of its cracking? I mean, because we've already discussed the idea that Trump's in on it. So just for completion, is there evidence that this was like a sloppy operation by people getting like the bank robbers, start shooting the hostages?
But yeah, I mean, of course there is. And that's why I said we always have to always have to build out our scenarios for both cases. I mean, look, my Trump is what everyone thinks he is scenario is much more dire, right? That means that we're about to have the beginning of World War III. Because like I said, if he is the threat, right? If he is the one that it could mobilize the American people against this underlying dark infrastructure, the shadow governance, right, which is all part of an unconventional warfare plan, right? Shadow governance, right? If he is this person, well, then they're going to have to move in the next few months.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you would never allow, like, for example, if Putin, like everyone likes to talk about Ukraine, let's say Putin really was this bad guy and he's going to destroy whatever, right? And he got intel that some hardcore anti-Russian general was about to be installed in charge of the Ukrainians, and that he was going to use American weapons to attack Moscow and everything like that. Would Putin wait until that general is actually in charge of things, or would he commit an offensive beforehand when the Ukrainians are more weak? Right? I mean, this is basic military strategy. You don't attack when your enemy is stronger. You attack when your enemy is weakest. And we know for 100% certain that the Biden administration, that U.S. Congress and the Senate are riddled with Chinese operatives, right? And so if Trump is a good guy, well, then that means he would make the anti-enemy plan weaker, and therefore they would have to move before. And I'm telling you right now, they're prepared to do that, right? I mean, modern warfare and modern weapons, you don't have to have perfect conditions, right? I mean, tactical nuclear weapons, offshore, underwater nuclear explosions that send radiated waves, all of these different techniques and tactics and procedures that exist in modern warfare, right? I mean, remember, they've got hundreds of thousands of shadow operatives already in the United States. They have plenty of surveillance over the last few decades of military installations. They've totally weakened the United States military, personnel-wise, equipment-wise. I mean, you think Boeing's manufacturing issues only affected commercial liners? How many military aircraft has Boeing built under this regime of DEI, right? I mean, this has been a long-term plan, and if Trump truly is the good guy here, so I would not allow him to gain power. I would not put him in charge of the United States military. I would not give him access to the United States nuclear arsenal codes, right? And so that would mean their time is extremely short. But maybe it's different. So I don't know, Tommy. I wish I did know. Look, again, I know enough about covert, clandestine, compartmentalized operations to know that what we are able and allowed to see is by no means big picture, right? And so we're just postulating and hypothesizing and theorizing, right?
Yeah.
So what we do know is that America is under attack fully, and that we have dark days ahead of us.
So, I mean, again, just as an idea, could it be that it's so, let's say we're on the other side, could it be that it's so dire? Hold on, getting feedback. Could it be that it's so dire that they're going, we can't let Trump win, but they might be zooming out, the more level-headed people at the top who have more patience and understand this is a... Say what? Jeremy?
No, I'm listening. I'm sorry. I'm out in the room. I'm trying to cover up my microphone so it's not so loud.
You're good. Could it be that if this is such a long-term plan and they've put, everything on the line over the centuries to build this up, I mean, it might also be like a point where it's on the table where they go, why don't you just let Trump win and then never deal with him again? He's only got one term left. He didn't do a whole lot his first term. Why not just let him in, you know, obstruct at every point you can, and then in 4 years the shit will be over. Like that's also a point.
Yeah, I mean a tactical withdrawal. Tactical patience is definitely part of any battlefield plan, right? Look, hey, we've lost the upper hand, so let's just pull back and not move forward. I mean, that's always part of the equation, right? So then we have to once again do if then. If that's the case, then what should we see? But here's the problem. I mean, you look at who his vice presidential candidate is, J.D. Vance, which by all reports, he sounds like a pretty legitimate guy, former Marine Corps officer, and things like that. Wrote a book about American, culture. And so he's the next person that would be on next circle, right? So would they want to take the risk that he gains, popularity and things like that? Who knows? And again, this is why it is a constant war gaming, a constant inserting of new information, a constant reevaluating of theories. I mean, look, I just heard a gentleman the other night that actually made me believe more that maybe Trump is the good guy and that they are about to move in a military manner against the United States. So if you're not open to all these changes in data input, then you're going to completely be fooled, because what we, again, have to always remember is that what we are told is not reality.
Yeah. I got one. You got 1 minute left. We can do one more if you want. If you want to call back.
Thank you for using Securus. Goodbye.
We were planning on doing 4 15-minute chunks, but I don't feel like we're finished yet. There's no good answer to any of this shit. And I don't even mean like the obvious, like, yeah, a bunch of demon pedophiles from hell are running the planet. Like, I get that's not good. But I mean, even just from like if I was a writer and this was like a plot for a show, I wouldn't be good with it. I'd be like, there's way too many plot holes. There's way too much plot armor. It's not a real story yet. I mean, that might be the point. Maybe this really is the most sophisticated military operation ever. You just feel totally naked and confused, just in the fog without glasses on. Like that might be the purpose. And if you were using it to set up global governance, I mean, you wouldn't spare any expense. If you had the Manhattan Project equivalent of a psychological operation, now's the time to use it. You would use it to take over. Jeremy, you back? The icon just turned green. I don't. Or Occam's razor might say, yeah, the reason why none of it makes any sense is because this truly is chaotic. It truly is just stochastic madness. That's the right word.
Start the conversation now.
Jeremy, you back?
All right, can you hear me?
Yeah.
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 I apologize for that last call. Yeah.
Dude, you're fine.
Commissary delivery days. So I had to go down there and sign for all my junk food so I can make it through the next week.
Dude, don't apologize. I get it. I'm not in jail, and junk food's still the highlight of my week, so I get you, dude. But like, I was just thinking, like, none of it truly makes any sense. And I don't mean in like when you were gone, I was saying, and none of it sits right well with me, and not the obvious answer. Like, there's a bunch of evil pedophiles running the planet. I get that, but I mean, even in terms of just like logic, none of it. I don't feel comfortable with anyone. Like, any major event, you look at like
Right.
Kennedy or something, and it's like, yeah, it's all gray around it. But when you really zoom out, it's pretty clear. It's like he didn't want war, and they got rid of him, and then we got war. Like, it's so sure you don't know the nitty gritty of who fired what and was there a grassy knoll sniper, but it's pretty clear when you zoom out. You go, the operation moved along, so you can kind of wrap it up in a bow. This doesn't feel like there's. Like, I don't even feel like there's a general direction that makes sense. Like, So is this
Right.
truly, are we just seeing this is what chaos is? This is when there's not a clear-cut winner. Maybe it really is down to the final 100 meters of the marathon, and maybe both sides are just running and they're bleeding and they're dehydrated, and maybe this is what it looks like. Is it's not clean, cool, and like, polished. It's just it's Biden steps down and Trump almost gets his head blown off, and the Olympics are, some guy's testicles are out, and it's just like, this, who's running this? And it's like, no one's running it. It might be that there is no one at the wheel. Like, you get to the front of the airplane and the cockpit's empty. Like, this might be that, which is so much scarier.
Well, the random chaos theory, I think, can be argued against because there's so many actual writings that totally describe exactly what we're doing right now, with whether it's the Bible or whether it's Islamic text or Jewish text or Rockefeller Foundation white papers or the Project for a New American Thing. There's too much in writing that tells us that what we're experiencing is by design and not by some random. But I want us to believe that this is just evolution, right? Where we have access to more information, but yet we're the dumbest in the history of the world, right? And so, look, this is what complexity, again, is part of the operation, right? They want us to focus in the weeds because, like you just said, you feel like something's not right, and it could drive you crazy trying to figure out what exactly all the aspects are. And in my case particularly, right, here's a perfect example of those that are guilty hyper-focusing in the weeds as part of their cover. And so I never made the statement that the FBI agents themselves, the Department of Homeland Security investigators working for the FBI, that they themselves planted the grenades in classified material. I've never made that statement, right? And yet this was what the Department of Justice's explanation of what I'm saying was. They told the jury that Mr. Brown claims that these two guys were angry and insulted that he made fun of them, and therefore they planned. Well, that's just absurd and ridiculous, right? I've never made such an absurd, ridiculous claim. See, they want to hyper-focus on the exact aspect of it. I don't know who planted that stuff. But what I do know is that I was harming the narrative, and therefore I was targeted by somebody within the government. And I don't think the FBI knew exactly what they were even involved in because, see, that's how compartmentalized operations work. You're useful idiots who are just supposed to find the things that your covert asset or crackhead, confidential human source, or whoever you use to plant stuff, right? The guys that are supposed to find it, they're not told what they're going to find. They're just told, hey, go look in that RV over there and see what you find, right?
Yeah.
And because this gives them plausible deniability, right? And so they want us to try to figure out every aspect of the conspiracy so that they can then say, oh, that's ridiculous, right? Just like in the scene from Batman, right? Where he says, they're utilizing the truth to make us feel like we're retarded, right? Yeah. You're saying that this rich guy runs around town and beats up bad guys using the military-industrial complex and secret R&D. That's crazy. No one's going to believe you. And yet that was true. And see, our government does exactly the same thing, right? You're trying to say that we allowed Hamas to attack Israel on October 7th in order to justify a offensive war in the Middle East in order to bring about World War III. That's crazy. Why would we allow innocent people to be murdered? I don't know. Why have you done it any time throughout history? Yeah. And yet you do it all the time, right? And so we just need to draw back and say, it doesn't matter how they did it. It just matters that they are doing it, right? And that's what we need to stop. And that's what we need to leverage our unity by coming together as a people and saying, this is not the type of government our founders gave us, and we have the mechanisms in place to stop it, right? And we need to leverage our numbers and our voices in order to make this happen. And a perfect example, I don't know if you listen much to Jesse Kelly, but he talks about how we know Congress is never, ever, ever going to help us because they have the absolute power to immediately make this all stop, and that is the power of the purse. They could literally zero out all of these deep state agencies overnight and basically cut them off. They could strangulate them by cutting off their funding, but they won't. In fact, they don't only continue to give them money, but they continue to give them more money and brand new clubhouses and more weapons and more authorities in violation of the Constitution against us because they gave them some briefing behind closed doors. And we need to accept this reality that these people are not our friends.
It could also be that this is like, this is the end state of a system that was so successful on a plot of land, the United States, that was so isolated from the rest of the world, so full of natural resources, and with such a primo constitution that, of course, this thing was going to succeed beyond anyone's wildest dreams, and thus also become the absolute number one target for people wishing to do ill in the world. You'd want control of the biggest, baddest nation with the most resources. Like you look kind of back to Batman. It's you live long enough to become the villain. Like it might be that this is what happens when it's so successful and it all works out perfectly. Is you become so massive that you start using the military to bludgeon the rest of the world over the head and do whatever the fuck you want. Like this might be the end state. It's the athlete that gets so successful that they become detached from the teammates and everyone else, and their ego that's the end result of being the best is you become an asshole. Like this is more of an observation, not really any other idea, but this might be the end case of that is like, yeah, this is what you would do is you would eventually kind of become evil. Maybe it's unavoidable in a million timelines. Maybe it's unavoidable. I don't know.
Well, of course, but see, here's the thing: we can look to one of the most prophetic pieces of writing that I've probably ever discovered. All right, and that is Federalist Papers, Federalist 26 through 29. If you read Federalist 26 through 29, Alexander Hamilton explains, and of course a lot of people don't like Hamilton for a lot of different reasons, but if you read 26 through 1, the reason why you don't like him is probably because you don't actually know what he even said, because you're only reacting to what your college history professor told you rather than actually reading it for yourself. But I ask you to read 26 through 29. In 26 through 29, Hamilton lays out the explanation of basically the Second Amendment and the restrictions on raising standing armies that is laid out in Article 1 of the Constitution. See, one of my most controversial statements is that the United States Army is unconstitutional. Now, we know that this is true because of Hamilton's writings 26 through 29, because he explains exactly why the founders were opposed to standing armies in time of peace. And it actually explains that they will attempt to keep standing armies, and this is exactly how they'll do it. And he explains exactly what has happened in America. The constant idea of foreign enemies and boogeymen and whatever. And it is how Lincoln actually brought about the standing army through the Civil War, and then it maintained and then kept growing and growing and created the military-industrial complex. But the founders did not want that. The founders said the only military that is constitutionally sanctioned is the Navy. Why? Because the Navy protects our borders. right? That we're surrounded by water, and therefore a federal navy will protect our homeland. But the states are to maintain their own militias, right? And that in time of invasion, we can gather those militias together and create a common defense, right? But that a standing army has been used throughout history by tyrants in order to be turned against its people themselves. And it is very clearly explained by Hamilton in mostly 26, but it goes on a couple of, you really should read all four of them together. But this is what we're living under, the very thing that our founders warned us would happen if we did not follow what they actually laid out. Our Constitution has not been followed since the American Civil War. And we all run around and talk about a republic and a constitution and all this stuff. It's just a piece of paper that nobody even knows what it says, right? I mean, the Constitution lays out that we're only supposed to have one representative for every 30,000 citizens, and yet right now that ratio in Congress is 1 for 750,000 citizens. It's right there in Article 1. Read it for yourself. And why does this matter? Because it dilutes the voice of the people, which is exactly what you need in order to manipulate a government, turn it towards tyrannical means. And so our founders knew all this would happen. They were very intelligent. They were very experienced. They fought a revolutionary war against the tyrant themselves. And they said, this is what human history says is likely to happen. So in order to prevent that, we have put this in place. And one of those things was, we're not a democracy. Why? Because the masses are asses and people can be manipulated to vote for things based on ignorance or whatever. Therefore, we're going to establish each branch of government to be chosen and selected in a completely different way. And yet, what do? They take that way away from choosing senators and they convert it to what? Democracy, right? Because, see, it's easy. I mean, look at Venezuela right now, right? Maduro just won an election. Of course, 51. It's always 51 to 49 because George Carlin told us that they basically just give us the right to vote to make us think that we have a choice, right? It's not real, right? It's why every election is always 51-49, 52-48. It never goes outside of that. They want us to believe that we're divided right down the middle, and yet the whole world is divided right down the middle. It's
you have 1 minute left.
No one actually agrees on things. We're all equally divided. I mean, that doesn't even make sense, right? So this is what has happened in America, and we've been warned, but because of our own ignorance, we haven't learned our own history. We don't even know our own founding documents, but it's all right there. So if you read Federalist 26 to 29, you'll be like, oh my gosh, they even predicted that elected officials would want to bring about standing armies in order to gain power. It really is enlightening. And Tommy, I think this is our last call. So
yes, sir.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak. Again, enjoyed the conversation, and it's always one of the most open conversations I ever get to have because you're a thinker.
Fuck yeah, man. Hey, dude, I appreciate you coming. I know we're going to cut off any second. Obviously, dude, please come back on. Don't be a stranger. And when it ends, I'll tell everyone. JeremyBrownDefense.com.
Thank you for using.
Our brother, thank you so
Goodbye.
much. Yeah, so that's got cut off. Guys, go to JeremyBrownDefense.com. That link is in the description. You can help out his legal defense. Obviously, he's a fucking amazing human being. He's a brilliant dude, and he loves this country. I don't think anyone can even begin to doubt that. I think, as always, the maybe real takeaway theme is like, don't let anything be holy. Don't let anything be beyond question. You really do, and that doesn't mean that you're a negative or black pilled. It just simply means keep your brain turned on. Don't let anyone ever get a free pass. Doesn't mean be a bad person. Doesn't mean don't love your neighbor. But it does mean don't give anyone a free pass. Keep a skeptical mind about everyone and everything, including Donald Trump, or if you're on the left, including Kamala Harris. I'm not telling you what to think. I'm just telling you to think. I have no desire to tell you what to think. I don't care. This life is fleeting, and I'm going to do most good I can. I frankly don't care. I don't care enough about you to tell you how to think, but you should think and look out for yourself, including think about me. Don't trust me. Don't trust the show I put out. You might like the show. You might be a regular watcher. Don't trust me. Don't take me. You have no idea who I am. You don't know what agenda I have. So question everything, including being told to question everything. So we're gonna wrap this up. See if I can't fit in an ad. Are they still working? Let's do an ad. Let's do an ad, guys. 4 Patriots. 2/3 of American. Oh, wait. 2/3 of Americans are at risk. Don't click away yet, guys. This is how the show gets paid. 2/3 of Americans are at risk of blackouts from heat waves. Are you prepared? Claim your power and independence from our country's crumbling power grid with the Patriot Power Generator 2000X. Over 150,000 Americans trust these powerful solar generators to run things like their fridge, fans, TV, CPAP, and more during an emergency. Get yours today at 4 Patriots. That's the number 4 Patriots, and score a free 100-watt solar panel. If you're ready to have the ultimate in blackout protection and get a free solar panel, go to 4patriots.com now. Guys, thank you so much for watching. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Obviously, Jeremy's a cool fucking dude. If you can, go throw him a couple shekels. Go throw his defense fund a couple shekels. Or I would imagine you probably, if you want to, I think you probably find a way to send him some junk food so he doesn't go crazy in there. All right, guys. Much love. Thank you so much for watching. Take care, everybody. Peace.